Goshen, and it's Goshen, Indiana, not Goshen, New York.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you guys making the journey. Arnold, welcome. We love having people that are going to be touching and feeling and putting it together and giving them a tour of our facilities. Chad, you're going to see your design come to life. Something pretty new. The flight stack is not something we've done a ton of, and so it's going to be out in the Hamptons, and you're going to be showing off, and I understand a stack system where we've got a stairway on top of a stairway.
That's right.
It's going to be fun.
We do lots of stairs on top of stairs, and this particular client that we're building for was really specific that the monotube look wasn't for them. And it was really amazing to be able to collaborate with your sales team to say, like, what else can we do based on some product images that she had, some photos from Pinterest, and what else can we do to make this client happy with like something super special and custom. And I know this is now a big product line for you guys, and we're really looking forward to seeing Viewrail stack run through the factory here.
JJ is our Chief Operating Officer, and he's going to be our guide throughout the day while you and I are talking, and he's going to point out all the details that we're really working on to make Arnold's life easy as he's putting it together with identification stamps and tying that to the instructions. So let's get going.
All right, Arnold, you excited to see all that stuff?
So Chad, this mezzanine is a fun place to be able to get a good overview and see all of what's going on throughout the plant. So in this building, we are bringing in the raw material through these doors, flowing around in a U shape, and exiting on the other side. So we have some of the steel down here that's going to be used for a brace in your project. And as you're going to see as it flows on, there is the flow drilling process, the cutting, the cleaning, the powder coating. So it's going to go out of here powder coated. And one of the beauties of Plant 6 is when a product line starts here, it exits here within 1 day normally. And in your case, a little more complicated system, it's going to be 2 days in the plant. So we really like to move fast, try to learn from Toyota and the Toyota production system. You'll see everything is designed around flow.
And when you say it's in here for 2 days, does that mean it's the only thing running in the course for 2 days, or were you leaving other projects inside of that?
There will be about 10 to 20 stair systems flowing through that require the steel. And then when we talk about the post-manufacturing, we'd be looking at probably another 75 to 100 maybe stairways that are, or railing systems that are flowing through as post. So yeah, there's a continuous flow of all of our customers. And so we're able to take your demands and another customer's demands. So when we're cutting the steel, to be able to put them against one another so we have the best yield of the steel and we're not creating scrap.
How do you do that?
Software.
That you guys develop?
Software and humanware, specifically on the cutting of the steel. That's a human going to be running that algorithm. When we're talking about cutting the aluminum post, that's a computer algorithm that's doing more of that optimization.
And you guys wrote that software in-house?
Yeah, we're pretty heavy on nerds around here. We like our nerds, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet some of those folks that are writing those algorithms and putting together those programs.
I'd love to.
Let's go. So this is the building where all of our metal manufacturing is done. And the steel is coming in here, and in some cases stainless steel, aluminum. And we're gonna start down the line where our monostringer system is made, or in the case of flight stack that we're doing for you with a brace, the brace would be loaded up onto this conveyor with the overhead crane system. And we're going to be cutting it to the exact length.
Yeah.
Nearly everything we do is automation. This is one of the rarities that is done by a tape measure. And we really only have 2 operators qualified to run the saw. We're very particular on the process. There is some crown to steel. Steel isn't dead straight, and so the operator is making some human decisions and adjustments to deal with any crown or bow and reading that to make sure that the angle is cut perfectly. Once the steel is up on conveyor system. It's able to roll, it's able to flow into this mill.
Yeah.
And this is where the automation begins, because on this screen, the operator is going to be pulling up the programming. It comes right out of the CAD model and is going to go into the machine so that it is putting all of the holes and all the features exactly where they need to be.
How does the machine know where, how does it become reference to the point on the steel tube to know where to start?
So we did a lot of work when we got this machine in building all of the fixturing on it. And so the reference is this piece right here. We're able to move it up and down in case we need the machine. So we're always referencing off of this big 1/2-inch thick plate there.
And these gauges figure out the left to right? Is that how that works?
So we're always referencing against the back fence. And we added all of these solenoids here. So when we throw the valve, we're going to be moving all these solenoids.
Wow.
We're going to open them up, and now we can engage them. And when we're done, we're able to throw another valve. It will raise these balls up so that this will easily just slide out of here.
It's so funny, you know, I know you're a pilot, so this is like more of the scale solenoid you're used to seeing. But like the solenoid I'm used to seeing is like to actuate a water valve. They're usually this big, a little diaphragm. It's so funny to see a large solenoid.
So as a tube is exiting here, it has its paperwork established with it. It is also going to get a dot peen stamp on it. And we lost JJ.
We lost JJ and Arnold. We should maybe get them back.
I'm gonna yell, sorry.
Can
Watch
you?
your ears. Jay! JJ!
You know, we were just talking about identifying all these random parts that come out in the field, which are actually very much not random and are correlated back to a really great exploded 3D diagram.
Yep.
But nonetheless, you know, it's very hard for the field guys who are looking at these things often for the first time to know what's what. So can you explain that to me a little bit, how you guys make that work?
Yeah. Chad, we have to be really deliberate with that, because not only are you trying to figure out what pieces go where for your install, we're processing multiple orders all day, every day. And so we need that information to keep our stuff straight. And so if we look at everything that we have over here on the racks, we see a wall cover, and we have the part number dot peened right in to the end of that plate. And even smaller pieces, like these Videra plates, we have dot peened the order number and the part number into the sides of those plates.
So these plates are to hold, to support the glass rail system?
Yeah, those are going to be at the edge of a landing.
Yep.
That stack up will be your landing, a panel of glass, a gasket, this steel plate, and then your nuts and bolts.
And as I mean, I can see that they're different, but they're, you know, to an untrained eye, pulling these out of packaging, these could look very similar. They're only different by about 2 inches, 3 inches.
Absolutely. I mean, those landings that have 2 or 3 panels worth of glass, we custom engineer that for that specific side. And so it's very critical where that piece goes.
Yeah. And where's the engraving on this?
So in this one, we're seeing that engraving right here.
Yeah.
It pops a little bit better once it's got the powder on there.
So in the manual weld cell, we have a goal of everything Viewrail is to hide all of our fasteners and hide all of our welds.
Yeah.
And so we've had to do a lot of work on that and figuring out how to get things stamped, because we have to have certification stamps, as well as our welders need to be AWS certified. So Randy's one of our AWS certified welders. This is a dual stringer system that Randy's working on.
How are you, Randy?
And these are the flow drilled holes that are tapped and threaded that we've talked about a fair bit. And this is a piece similar to what's going to be going into your system.
So this oil is the cutting oil that they use to do the threading on the machine. And I get all of that off and the scratches and make it pretty and make sure it's all welded together tight so it can be powder coated.
What's like the hardest part of your job over here?
The hardest part?
Yeah.
Just making it pretty.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little rougher than others, but it's worth it. it's worth it.
One of my favorite parts of Instagram is actually just the feeds of really beautiful welds.
Yeah.
You know, because there's not a lot of people who can do what you do anymore, and it's really a special skill.
The steel tube starts out flat and it gets rolled around, and then when it gets rolled around, it has to be welded. And so this is the weld seam that you see here. And notice they have chosen to have the weld seam inside where the bracket's going to attach and where the tread is going to hide it.
Yeah.
So on the opposite side of this piece of steel, we would see that
Right.
it's smooth and clean and flat. And this is going to be the money surface, the surface that you want to see as a customer.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a major decision to make that I think, you know, people who aren't working in a beautifully day-lit factory like this, you know, with so much intention behind what they're doing, you know, a smaller fabrication shop might miss that and just, you know, run it down with both sides out the same direction. That means that one stringer has the seam and one stringer doesn't have the seam.
Yeah.
That intentionality is a big deal. Randy, how long have you been working here?
Almost 3 years.
Yeah? How do you like the new factory?
I like it a lot.
Yeah?
We've got a lot more room here, a lot more camaraderie here. I mean, before we were in a small place and there was fewer people. Now we got more people, more chances to help out and make a better product. So
I'm loving looking behind you at these beveled plates, by the way. And
Yeah.
I know I'm getting into the weeds here, but how do you put those bevels on those plates?
this is done on a mill in the back,
Yeah.
and also the threading is done on a mill in the back. And they bring that up to us,
Yeah.
and then we weld it into the tubes. These holes are for the lighting, for the wiring and the lighting.
Oh, this is for LEDs and the treads?
Yes.
So no matter what, you always have the conduit hole to get in there and be able to get the LED lights in there. Len, do you ever get people who decide that they're going to light it themselves?
Yes, we do. And usually somewhere along the way, they call us up and say, can you help me out here? And we're like,
never mind.
yeah, we can help you out.
Yeah, but that's a really cool feature. You know, you never know what other things people will think of to run through your conduits once
Yeah.
you let that route be there.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little piece of your like aircraft chip, right?
Yeah,
You know,
there you
like
go.
aircraft seem to always have like a route, right, where you can get other
Yep.
things routed through.
Yeah.
The gate, you know, we hit a couple little speed bumps, and it was such a nice process to be able to engage with JJ and really just have a great conversation about like just have that two-way feedback of like, here's what I'm seeing on the customer side, and like here's how you can improve it. And my favorite thing that puts like the huge smile that's on my face right now is that like anytime I've ever done that interaction with Viewrail, it's always 100% met with, I would really like to know more about this problem and improve it, and then pretty instantaneously an improvement, which is such a rare thing in this world with, you know, within any industry or even human behavior generally. To hear your problem and then act on it right away is really cool. So that was really that's my favorite part so far about this project. So
back here is where the plates are cut. And so steel is coming in and being manipulated around on the crane. So we would be loading up steel plates onto one of these laser machines. We have two lasers. One of them is primarily for stainless. Jay, do we have his flight stack up on the table?
His flight stack went through the table last week, but the remnant that we have over there, that's the same grade of plate that we would have used for your guys' system. That's an A50 half-inch thick mild steel plate.
yeah,
And it would have been run right here on this laser.
Yeah.
When we go over to plant 2, we'll be able to check out those final pieces. Because you are ready to start installing,
Yeah.
we jumped the gun a little bit and got everything through powder coat so we can start putting it in a box.
Nice.
And it might beat you home.
Oh, that would be pretty cool. How long does it take to make one of those cuts?
Well, let's go take a look. So in there you can see the laser, and as it's moving, that is making a cut. It's moving pretty quickly through this
Yeah.
thinner sheet metal.
And so as you increase the thickness of the metal, does it have to run slower?
There are different parameters that determine what the speed is of how much power, how hard do we want to push it, how thick is it, what type of assist gas we're using, and also the corners, because it can only turn a corner at a certain velocity.
Got it. And this is your layout over here for reducing waste, right?
Correct, yeah. We call it the nest.
Is this manually produced or this is auto-generated?
It's auto-generated.
That's unbelievable. I mean, and I mean, I guess the more you optimize this, not only are you saving costs for you and your customers, but also you're saving the environment, like one piece of savings at a time there.
Exactly. One of the most common ways that we have to move the material, because the laser just heats up the steel, but then we got to move the steel, and we want to blast it with nitrogen, because we just blast it with air, it could cause some oxidation to happen.
Right.
So in plant 6, we installed this cube back here, which is a nitrogen harvesting machine.
Yeah.
The air is, correct me if I'm wrong, about 82% nitrogen. So we have to remove all the oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other trace gases, and we want just pure nitrogen. So we harvest our own nitrogen and use it right here in the machine. It's a pretty cool process.
That's really awesome.
We walk around by the other laser.
Is the blue, is this nitrogen piping the blue? Is that what that is?
So this actual pipe is shop air.
Shop air.
And so we are compressing, and it uses a compression to be able to run that membrane to filter the air.
Yeah.
And so this is actually storage of nitrogen here.
Oh, so you guys generated this nitrogen.
Yes, so this will run 24/7, refilling this bank, and then during the day we deplete the bank, and then overnight it will replenish itself.
Incredible. Yeah, I think I recall hearing JJ once say that, especially during the pandemic, nitrogen was in short supply, and you were getting, supply chain issues with that.
Drivers were in short supply. So we would run out of nitrogen because we couldn't get a driver to get it here. And so by installing this, it just always shows up.
Does this save you cost as well?
The ROI was around 4 years. So it's going to be about 4 years till it pays off. Its main consumer is electricity to produce it, not transportation costs. So by having solar panels on top of this, we're really able to offset and to produce most of our nitrogen at very, very low cost and very low impact.
And you're keeping trucks off the road nonetheless.
Exactly. When we put this plant together, it was really designed not just around flow and efficiency, but around a lot of environmental concerns, both for our employees and for our customers and for everyone else we share this planet with. So a lot of solar panels, nitrogen harvesting, optimization of the usage of the raw material, reduction to a large degree of any forklift traffic, low transportation, all of those things are kind of baked into the design.
And I'm standing here right now looking at one of your things you told me you added, which is a window. And the daylight and the views in here, I mean, I'm looking at a beautiful field, some grass and stuff. And I mean, I think it's pretty unique, right? To be able to be running one of these pieces of sophisticated equipment in a somewhat noisy factory, but also be getting a view of the sky and some grass at the same time. That's a really good thing. I think that probably ends up coming out in your products eventually.
I think it really does, because our staff is able to see and understand what type of environment they're working in and the type of environment of the home that you want to produce. This is our new standard, and we are bringing every one of our plants, as you see and you get a tour, we're bringing every plant up to this standard.
That's remarkable.
Your system, we're needing to cut out the pieces, and once we get them cut out, a lot of times we're going to have some bracketry that's going to need to be bent. But before it can be bent, they have to be deburred. And so that's what we're doing here. Is this Lismac machine is taking one of these plates, and we're running it through this machine. I'm kind of doing this because it's warm, because the deburring process heated it up. But we knocked down all of the edges. You can see how those edges are knocked down. That's an important piece. Thanks. Lane is bending these small covers, and then they will end up getting polished. So we've also made quite a bit of an investment in some of the latest technology in press brakes. There's a laser that's protecting his fingers. It's looking for a finger, looking for something that doesn't look like metal in there, and it will shut down the machine.
When I was a kid, my mother had a jewelry factory, and I used to operate a 5-ton kick press.
Really?
Which did not have that technology, and so I was trained very early to make sure I kept my fingers out of the die.
Yeah, you were. So we have several customer orders that are flowing through here, and the paperwork is kind of a backup to the dot peening that is put onto every part.
Yeah, look how bright these are now, Arnold. Now you really can see what those are.
You were asking earlier about the beveling, and the beveling is happening on this mill over here. Right now we're running some aluminum plates, but you can see there's also some steel plates up on the table that's going to get loaded up and beveled.
And do you have to switch tools to go between aluminum and steel?
So up there is a big carousel with a bunch of tools, and the program is also going to call out what the material is, and the machine will know which tool to grab based upon the program. Kind of the rule in this area, and I think we're coming up on break time, but it's a 1:4 ratio, and you'll see a lot of these machines have a robot on them. And so the operator is able to load up the day's work and have the robot do the loading and the unloading, so one person be running multiple machines. As I mentioned earlier, Toyota and Toyota Production System, we are not going to overproduce. So we're not going to sit here and just make more parts to somehow make an inventory balance sheet look good. Once we have run the day's demand, the machines will stop so that we can be just in time. And what appears, though, for the most part, we've hit the demand limits for the day.
So what do you do with the staff if you get there? It's early in the morning and you hit the demand for the day.
So nearly everyone in the plant is cross-trained to be able to do other projects. So they're going to either go help in something else that has more demand, they'll be working on a maintenance or a development project, or finding a way to sharpen their skills.
That's awesome. And in terms of like in front of the equipment here, I mean, I see the flashing green light on there. Mm-hmm. What is that indicating?
So flashing, the green light and its rate of its flashing is usually telling us it's ready. If it's another color, it can indicate an error. When it goes solid green, like that one just went solid green, that's telling us that it is in cycle and it's actually running.
And do you guys, the conveyor belt system in front here, that doesn't come with that machine, right? You guys integrate that into it.
Yeah. So we did the integration on the conveyor, so we're conveying parts in and then removing them back out.
And that's in that Epson head piece there, that grabber, that's not part of the machine either. That's
correct. Yeah. Something we designed and added on. Tank system where we are loading up handrail, and it is being sequenced through this 5 stages of wash, where we're washing both internally and externally the part, doing a zirconium pre-treatment, so that aluminum piece is really well prepared to receive powder coating. Everybody knows paint is all about the prep.
Yeah.
And we do a ton of work on the prep.
And we've seen that with, before we were customers of yours with locally fabricated and powder coated materials. If you have a couple hundred linear feet of rail, you always would have, a few sections that will end up with, just after the first year, bubble and flake off.
Yeah.
And, it's dielectric corrosion between dissimilar materials, and all of these things we have to think about that all the time.
So your larger stringer pieces and your interior pieces, they're going to go through this 4-bay process. This first bay is the wash bay, where we're doing a wash in there.
A self-serve car wash, basically.
It really is a drive-in, back out car wash lane. And then the next one is going to be the dry-off oven. And so we put it in there, it dries, it also outgasses anything. So it does that first heat to expand the metal, kick out any trapped gases. We then allow it to cool, and we'll go into powder and to the final oven. Let's go down here and take a look at those. So that screen up there will do the countdown so that we know how long we've got, and the folks are able to time themselves, because it's a go in and go out. This is the constraint to the system, how quickly we can get them in and out of the final cures.
Got it. So that's once that oven gets going, it'll start ticking down for 30 minutes.
Correct.
I mean, the finish is pristine.
This is a base rail cover for glass base rail.
Yeah.
And then there's some handrails over there. And then every one of them is packaged inside of this, we call it a ravioli, and a label is printed and put on it. It is scanned and then it is moved over here to one of these carts. And these carts denote the rough direction of where it's going. Is it going east, coming out and going to you? Is it going west to California? Is it staying local? And every one of them is going to be identified.
So each of these carts, one is east, one's west, one's local?
Yes.
And that's obviously that's a new innovation that you guys are doing now that you're trucking yourselves with VRD?
Correct, yeah. So last month, around 60% of what we shipped stayed on our own truck the whole way.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I have to say, from people who've been doing business with you for a while, the ravioli style packaging, it's such an improvement over, the box with a plastic, cover on top. With first of all, because now we're dealing with a recyclable material into our dumpster.
Exactly.
But also for us, we're right near sensitive environmental, assets. The beach, the wetlands, and small plastic bags, anything that can fly out of our dumpster. Even though we cover it at night and all that, it's still in the course of the day, things fly around. And the more we can keep those plastics away from us, the better we can do.
We went on a huge initiative to reduce plastic in our packaging. They're so insidious, they want to creep back in, and so it's kind of a whack-a-mole game of continuing to suppress plastics out of our process, and this is one of the bigger ways to do that. What's also really helpful for an Arnold is we're individually packaging every handrail. So when he looks at the pile, he can see, oh, I've got some short ones and some long ones, and can lay it out in the packaging and not even have to open up the packaging, so able to keep the products protected.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Are these QR codes usable by the builders yet, or is this just for you guys?
It's primarily an internal, but our tech people are working on correlating this and having it back to the print. Let's go over and see how the posts are made.
Let's go for it.
So this has been an area of a lot of continuous improvement because we're producing between 700 and 800 posts per day here on this line.
Yeah.
And that mix on your product, repeat that a couple hundred times on some days.
Yeah.
And so every morning the cut list is generated and we know exactly what we're going to produce today and we know exactly what we're going to produce tomorrow. And we're working on optimizing that based on our raw material. And so here at the front of the line, we have our 2x2 aluminum up here on the line, and that is put onto an automated bed that is feeding this upcut saw.
Okay.
And that is going through post by post and cutting them one at a time.
How many different post bottoms do you have?
We probably have somewhere between 1 dozen and 2 dozen if you factor in our aluminum and our stainless offerings.
Wow.
We've moved to a lot of bolt together solutions for our side mount offering.
Yeah.
Because we can produce a much stronger part with that bolt together solution, and those seams are just crystal clear when you don't have that filler weld on the sides. Here on this line, we really value those markings on the post to identify what it's going to be used for, so that we can do different process steps down the line and the operators don't have to punch in anything manually.
Yeah.
So there you can see we just lasered on to that post. We have a QR code that's going to be read at the next step. We also have some human readable on here so that we know what order this is associated with and what that post number is on that order.
Right, so what do you have? You have like 1, 2, 3 different jobs so far sitting right here. All different lengths too.
You see they're all different lengths because the cut list is looking at this and it's trying to come up with the best yield. That way we're taking care of our material usage.
And that was his waste. I just saw that go away about this long.
Yeah, about 4 inches of waste, and that's going to be recycled, and maybe we'll get it back someday as another aluminum blank.
That's the beauty of aluminum, right?
Then we're going to go from here and we're going to come over to our next stage, and right behind you, these are our different top offerings. So we have our universal tops, which these have got to look familiar to you and Arnold, right?
Yeah, of course, yep.
And what they're going to do with the post is we'll scan the post, and you see our Pictolite system is telling us that is the top that needs to go in that post. That way
What was
they don't make any mistakes.
Yeah, the color, as soon as he scanned it, the line changed color so that you can see where you're getting the top piece from.
And the next thing they do after they've pressed that top in is they're putting it on this conveyor belt. There's another QR reader down there at the end, and that is reading what this post is, and it is loading up the program for this post. And so that program is already pre-built, it's up in the cloud, it's downloaded to the machine, and it's running the program for that.
You know, it's so funny to see that, you know, the pattern get drilled, you know, only because, you know, for those of us who've fabricated, you know, cable or rod rails, you know, manually in the field with a story pole or a template or whatever, and, you know, you're trying to drill perfectly and get a drill press going and all that, and just to see how beautiful it comes out automated, repeated the same time over and over again.
It's repeated the same time every time. We know that those holes are in the right location. There's a lot going on here that's right.
And this also does your angle drilling too for stairs as well.
That is correct.
Which is really, you know, it's just incredible, and it just shows you, you know, when you work with a partner like Viewrail, that quality is coming out, you know, consistent every single time.
So you can see right now, we use cutting fluids in there. We're blowing off that cutting fluid so we're not making a mess on the floor or the conveyor. Tip it over to drain anything that's on the inside.
That's my favorite part of the program, is the tip. Because I'm sure the cutting fluid's also a valuable resource, right? That you don't want to just be dumping that on the floor.
Yeah, we don't want to dump that on the floor, making a mess. We want to keep using that and recycling that and use it for the next posts.
This is an interesting short post, right?
Yeah, it looks like we probably have a surface mount talon going down the line there.
All right, got it.
So each of the lanes here on our racetrack, they're associated with a different machine that they're going to run on. Mm-hmm. That one that's furthest away from us right now is the first machine to the second machine. We have some improvements coming down the line here soon in which this conveyor is going to extend all the way into this next robot.
Oh, wow.
That way Brody doesn't have to come down here and manually move the post.
Oh, that's great.
So we can see that the QR code is now positioned down here at the end.
Yeah.
And this robot will eventually be reading those QR codes.
Yeah.
And doing the buffing for that.
Wow. And
right.
What's the purpose of the buffing?
The purpose of the buffing is we're going to take that top that we've pressed in, and we're just going to blend those two pieces of metal together so that you as the customer or the installer never see those two pieces.
And when you press that top in, that's it. That's a mechanical connection. It never comes out.
It is a mechanical connection. We've tested those to all exceed 1,000 pounds of pull-out force.
Yeah.
And that's a QC check that we check every morning and a couple times periodically throughout the day.
Wow. JJ, is the piece on top, is it made out of a different material than the post so that it crushes, or?
It's made out of the same material. It's a 6061 T6 aluminum. The post material itself is a 6005 alloy. So same material. It's just we're really clever in our design to make sure we get a good engagement and a lifelong lock.
Uh-huh.
Hey Jeff, how's it going today, man?
Good, how are you?
I am doing well.
That's good.
So what Jeff's doing here is he is scanning the post, and that is going to pull up on the screen and the Pictolite over here what type of foot he needs to put on this post.
Yeah.
And then we can hear all that pecking right now. We're dot peening the bottom of that foot.
Yeah.
That way we know what that post is, and then in the field, you and your installers know where that post goes.
That's what we were talking about before. I mean, that's a huge improvement that you've made.
Yeah. We're getting really close to the point of the line where that laser etch mark is going to be taken off of that post so that you never see it.
Yeah.
So this is a really important step to get that permanently put on the bottom of that foot.
These guys are making 700-800 decisions a day here. We've got Pictolite, but like one mistake is one too many. And so we've installed a camera system, and it is looking at the part that's here and the part that's on the database and what is being dot peened. And if it's not correct, shuts the system down and says, do not pass go, do not collect $200. You can't keep going until you get the right part on there. So a further double check.
So meaning it won't engrave it.
You won't engrave it.
Right. That's great. And I'm also really so interested to see, you know, he's got the cutlass right up in front of him, so the employees really know, you know, where they're at for the day.
He's 86% done. We keep humming. We're going to get home.
So what goes on over here, JJ?
So this is where we're welding those plates onto the bottom of that post. All 4 of these are set up the same. They're actually 2 different robot cells.
Yep.
And we can pendulum process so that we can move really quickly. The robot can be working in one side of the cell, and we can be loading or unloading in that other side.
Wow.
Set up to run both of those standard feet and those special applications.
So basically, one worker selects the post base, loads these robots up, and it's just sort of going around in a circle while that's all happening.
Yeah, Jeff's a busy guy. He is moving around pretty quickly all day long.
I bet that's a nice little choreography he's got.
It is.
Oh man, I need a First Goons pegboard.
We can probably hook you up, man.
This is great.
We do 2 important things to the posts for powder coat preparation. We're going to do a mechanical process where we are shot blasting all the surfaces. We're cleaning off any of the weld smut, any of the oils, any of the other debris. And basically we're taking little tiny stainless steel BBs and we're blasting all the surfaces there. I'm really excited because we have a new machine that's going to even more automate this process. It's going to be pass through versus our batch process over there.
Oh, wow.
They just went down yesterday and got the final sign off on that. We should be seeing that for Christmas. And after we've done that mechanical blasting, we're going to come over here and we're going to do an immersion dip process, which we're going through 5 stages of cleaning that surface to make sure that we get the best possible powder coat adhesion.
It's really amazing. You know, I'm sure like we really put you guys through the worst possible test of the elements down on Dune Road. And I will tell you, you know, you're in good company. Your products do so fantastically. I've got several Viewrail handrails that are older than my Model X Tesla. Yeah. And my Model X Tesla does not live on Dune Road all the time. And yet the stanchion for the spoiler, which is aluminum, powder coated aluminum, no longer has paint on it from the environment down there, from getting sandblasted and salt blasted.
I'll call you this afternoon to tell him how to fix that.
You should let him know because it's bubbling off, and you know you guys clearly know how to do it the right way. It's a slow day over here today, right?
We're on lunchtime.
I guess so. Yeah, right. A little early for lunch.
You got to remember they start over here at 4:30.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We have a staggered start, so 4:30 is the start time.
Oh, all right.
And so for them, yeah, now's lunch, and they're already starting to think about it might be time to go home soon.
I was wondering why you were finishing up so early. I didn't realize you started at 4:30 in the morning over here. Why is that? Because you're running a second shift here? Or?
Well, we stagger the start because this takes an hour once you put a post on the line to get to the end. And so we want to start over here and start putting things on the line so that an hour later, people are starting to taking things off the line.
Oh, so you bring the front of the line people in earlier than the back.
Yep.
And they would leave in a wave.
Otherwise, we would have people waiting for work to start.
Yeah.
Or we'd have to create incredible piles somewhere.
Yeah.
And we make it our life's mission to figure out where piles are and prevent them from ever showing up.
That's amazing.
We moved to 410s earlier this year, and I'll tell you what, it is awesome for everybody.
That's 4 days a week, 10 hours a day?
Yep.
Wow.
Monday through Thursday. And that means everybody gets a 3-day weekend every weekend.
And does everybody love that?
They absolutely love that.
Productivity has increased as well because this is a big ship to get out of harbor. And when we get it out of harbor every day, it's a lot better to have it running for 10 hours than it is to 8 hours and have to bring it back into harbor and then repeat the same thing the next day. So we like to keep it rolling.
The other people that really like that are our plant managers and our maintenance teams because they get to come in on a Friday and focus on more continuous improvements, maybe fix a machine that has a little bit of a squeak, and we want to make sure that shows up Monday and Tuesday. So every day we are doing multiple tests throughout the day to make sure that our powder coat is going to be the best powder coat possible.
Yeah.
The rigorous testing that we have done has brought us to achieve a level of AMA 2605 certification, which is about as high as you can go in terms of a certified powder coat process.
Well, that's the American Architectural Metals Association, right?
You got it.
So that's like the highest level of making sure that paint sticks to something and doesn't come off ever.
Yep. So every day we're taking samples off of our dip tanks over here, and we're making sure that everything has the right chemistry and making any adjustments that may need to be made to make sure that we're getting the right chemical etch on that surface, which again results in the powder coat sticking forever. We also send samples down the line that we do boil tests and scratch tests on throughout the day to make sure that if there is a problem, we can prevent it before the product ever leaves the facility.
So scratch resistance is also a factor in the certification.
Yeah. So basically what they do there is you put you scratch a crosshatch pattern in your piece, and then you put it in a boil pot, and then you want to make sure that that paint is all remain there, or that powder all remains there. If it starts to peel off, you know you don't have good surface adhesion in those small squares.
That's really interesting.
And if we ever fail that, we stop and we look at the product and figure out what is affected and what we need to do to recover.
How many times have you failed that?
None.
There you go. So
when you're very deliberate about it every day, you don't have problems.
And you also have a process for what's going to happen when you fail, even though you've never failed.
That's right.
I like it.
So Chad, we've talked about all of our handrail and our steel tubes and our posts and how we take special care in treating those for powder coat.
Yeah.
We do the same thing with all of the small parts that go to those assemblies. And that's what we see over here in this smaller dip tank setup. We're set up with these crab pots, and we'll put an entire order's worth of small parts in here, and we run them through the same cleaning process as we do everywhere else.
Have you had any Delaware builders in here talk about a crab boil, or?
A couple times.
Yeah, it's great. Making me hungry now.
So when you run 700 to 800 posts a day, you're picking thousands of small parts. And so we don't want tribal knowledge for all of our operators to know exactly what those parts are.
Yeah.
So we set up this Pictolite system. In this Pictolite system, what they're going to do is they're going to scan the order that they want to start with.
Yeah.
And then all of the lights behind me start lighting up and telling that operator what to pick and how many to pick.
Yeah. JJ, tell us about this, because I think this is one of my favorite things you do over here, is the association of the powder coat lot to the product.
Okay. So here on the screen, what you see is this is how we track every container of powder coat that we have here in our facility.
Yeah.
We don't want powder coat to sit around too long because it can expire. Powder coat's got about a 12-month shelf life.
Yeah.
And so we track every container. We scan those containers and we record when we've received it, when we've used it, and when we've used all of it to take that back out of our system.
And it's also, is it linked to the products that went through on a particular day?
It is linked. That way we can know if you ever call and say, I do have a problem with the powder coat on this post, we can go see what that lot was that powder came from and kind of start some investigation from the back end.
And that's actually happened to us on the wood side of things with you guys, where we had some delaminated treads.
Yep.
And when we called up, we were all shocked to hear that you guys were like, yeah, you know what? We had a run of delaminated stuff go through that same week that yours went through.
Yep.
And it was a bad glue.
We were able to track that back to that week's glue and get you set up and talk to other customers that may have had products produced in that time frame and see how their product was performing and if we needed to make any adjustments.
And it's interesting to see that this powder coat here is actually almost done. Huh? That's February 2nd, 2021. So this is going to be expired next year, right?
Yeah, this is the example of what what we're looking at on each of those labels, and so we would get something different for something that they're actively running here.
Oh, got it.
See, we're pulling posts off the line and we put a poly sleeve over that, and that's just to protect that while it's in the packaging material.
Yeah.
These posts could be coming out to the East Coast to you, or they could be going all the way over to California. And so they're going to be in the back of a semi, whether it's ours or a shipping partner bouncing around. So we want to give that powder coat an extra level of protection.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes plastic is inevitable, as you said.
So we tried really hard to get rid of that plastic sleeve.
Yeah.
And we just found that there are too much abrasion that happens as things are jostling down the road.
Yeah.
And so that's one piece of poly that we just haven't been able to eliminate.
I know the cameras can't tell, but these standoffs, they're so beautiful how you've made them. That's what this is, right? This is a glass standoff?
It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the awesome things is every aspect of that has been made here, starting with a round 2 3/4 inch bar over in our 1010 machining facility.
Yeah, that really is amazing. And the fact that you guys don't just stop at making the functional part, but adding this very simple chamfer to it, really gives it a bit of modern design, really nice panache. And you can't see this on the image, but this thing is hot. As in, like, this just got finished and it's about to be in a box.
Yeah.
So Olivia here is going through order by order, and we saw an order number tag on top of those pins. She knows what needs to go in this box for that order. She is putting each of these in a bag, which is protection. This is one of the things we're looking to hopefully do something a little bit different with next year. But she's also scanning that to confirm that she put that in the box. That way we're sure we sent you the right number of parts and it was the right part.
Yeah, so this is your last check that, you know, it gets scanned, it goes in the box, that closes out the count.
Yep. The system knows all the pieces that went into that box.
Yeah.
So if you have a question about where a specific part is, we can actually look back in the parts list and tell you which box that's in.
Yeah.
And that's something that gets emailed to you when we hit ship.
That's one of my favorite things you guys have done innovations recently is, you know, when these orders come in, like this terrace order that's coming to us, or the Viewrail stack, how big is that, you know, physically in the back of a truck, the first order?
It's going to be pretty large.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a lot of little parts. It's several skids, right? 6, 7 skids.
We're going to be at least 4. I'm guessing 5 or 6.
Okay, yes. I mean, it's like, it's so funny when they come into the job site. You know, we have a lot less space than you have.
Yeah.
You know, to spread out, and you know, the first thing people want to do is go shred everything open and look for the first part they want. And you know what you guys have done with the labeling and the parts diagrams, and then the 3D exploded diagrams and all of that, it really does help us as trainers, Arnold and I, to say to people, you know what, here's the parts list, let's get the drawings out, and let's not go just shred the boxes, let's actually go hunt for the part we want. And it's not a wild goose chase, it's a really orderly, systematic method of finding what you need.
So we're on the last stop of the line, and that is packaging that post so it's protected to get to you, but also so that they know what to do with it for the last stages. We're scanning that QR code on the bottom of the post. We're putting that in a cold seal package, which is custom length for every post. And then we're putting that in a specific location at the end of the line. And so we see the put to light here. We packaged that and she scanned it, and it told her that this is the box that needs to go in. And so this is a large order. This is an express order, so this is refilling our stock post over in our shipping facility.
Okay.
If it's another order, and it doesn't matter which order it comes down the line as, it could be any of those positions over there. Each of those columns corresponds to a specific order.
Or a number of orders, I guess.
Or a number of orders, yep.
So, and if you have a really big order, do you set another pallet up right here and just let it all go into the box, or?
Yeah, that's what we have these 4 stations here for. I believe the rule currently is if it takes more than 3 columns over here, we're going to default to a skid shipment.
And it'll stay now in this cardboard box on top of the pallet?
Yep.
Does that get wrapped in plastic too, or that just goes like that, gets taped up?
We'll wrap it a little bit in plastic, we'll put a lid on that, and we'll send it out.
But you know, really eliminating a ton of that shrink plastic by using the cardboard box.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess you also get a little bit of enhanced impact protection too.
Yep, enhanced impact protection, and then also we spend a little bit less time having to get that onto a shrink wrapping machine and letting that do its thing.
Well, listen, Arnold, I think you'll agree, there's nothing we like less than having to open up shrink wrapped skids, right? You know, and you're cutting plastic, you know, but not wanting to cut too deep and all that stuff. So it's much nicer working with cardboard.
So Chad, Arnold, I think we have come to the end of Plant 6. What do you think?
I think it's really incredible. You know, I've been in here before, and I was here not that long ago. And what I think is most incredible is that dynamic of constantly growing, constantly learning. That, I mean, it was like a new tour because you guys have completely reconfigured almost every aspect in the past, 6 weeks. And that constant improvement, is one of our favorite things about Viewrail. So I really appreciate you bringing us through here to see everything.
Okay, thanks.
We're really glad you guys came. Arnold, the guy who's going to be touching this stuff and directing others on how to handle it every day. I'm really happy that you got to see it and experience it.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I love it. I enjoy it.